This is why you don't have a team performance problem in your business. You've got a reinforcement problem. There's this thing that happens with team management where people keep on stepping in, especially when you're at this transitionary time in your business from one level to the next, and keep doing the job that the other person, that the team member should be doing because you can do it better, right? But every time you do that, you've just trained them not to do it. This episode is all about an invisible system you've built and how to rebuild it so that you can build your business into what you want it to be. So, this guy, business owner, team has gone from small to medium size and they're no longer fulfilling their tasks. He basically spends his time cleaning up little admin pieces after the team should have done it. He cleans up what they've left, he picks up the slack, and it's a constant thing that's not only eating his time, it's eating his energy, it's stressing him out about business, and it's just not cool. He calls it a performance problem, a team performance problem, and he's getting pretty frustrated with him. I asked him the question about like what's more true. Are they acting like children or are you acting like the parent? And he's like, yep, maybe I am. He probably wasn't quite so joyful about acknowledging this, but it's like, yep, I am the parent in this, and not even the good parent either. The slightly reactionary, slightly stressed out parent. The problem isn't that he's built a bad team. These aren't bad people. He just trained them to act like one. The team wasn't the problem. It was the system he'd built around them, and he was the architect of that system. So here's what we need to think about. There's something called the child effects model, and it's from developmental psychology, learning literature, childhood kind of psychology-ish. But basically it says that the child is born with certain tendencies, natural tendencies. Their genes kind of say, hey, you're slightly more aggressive, or you're slightly more open, or you are slightly more neurotic, or whatever. So there's this genetic tendency. The parent then responds to that tendency. So if the child's really aggressive, maybe the parent's aggressive back, or maybe they're too soft back. There's a response. And then that response reinforces what the child is going to learn. So they learn to be more aggressive because it got reinforced. And that loop tightens and closes and it becomes more embedded. Same thing happens in teams. Exactly the same thing happens in teams. Your staff as a whole will have a natural tendency to let things slide if someone else will pick them up later, or if it's just allowed to happen. So the leader picks it up and the staff learn they don't need to do anything, and then the leader picks it up again, and then the staff learn they don't need to do anything, and then the leader picks it up again, and it just loops over and over. This wasn't a design system. Nobody chose it. It's just the path of least resistance through small, repeated decisions that felt reasonable or maybe just easy at the moment. He also learned, this guy, that he had like this default action, which was like this half-time energy team talk, which was harsh feedback. Hey, I've noticed this. This is shit. You need to sort this out. It's like calling people out publicly when things came wrong. We tracked that down to being probably modeled from his older siblings, some school sports experience, his basically environments where he learned what apparently performance looked like. Not necessarily true. The problem is, this does nothing. If you've ever been in that environment, I know I certainly have, with like high performance models, when someone's talking down to you like that, you retreat into yourself. You don't play with curiosity, you don't play with excitement, you don't move into it. And similarly, your team looks at that and goes, fuck, I don't want to pick up the autonomy of this because it sucks. So it's going to suppress performance. It's not going to build it. The psychology around this is very, very clear. Humans learn faster, they retain more, they perform better, they take more responsibility for those things around them through positive reinforcement, so encouragement of what you want to see through reward, than through criticism or shame. So he hadn't chose this culture. He hadn't like manufactured it. It wasn't a conscious decision. He'd inherited this leadership style that was modeled to him, given to him, and just applied it without questioning. Very normal, very understandable, very, very common. So here's what we did. We just named this like explicitly. It's like, this is the child effects model. This is how it works. Once he saw that loop, you couldn't really unsee it. It's one of those things that's just open to him. And once we named it, I shared then a little rule that my wife and I have. And it's basically this. We noticed that with our daughter, we can step in and try and keep her safe and kind of go, hey, stay back from that. At the moment, she's just started standing on the chairs that she can climb on, which is obviously not great. And she's also doing a bunch of other stuff which could get her less hurt. So we've come up with this rule because we don't want to stop her from learning the skills that she needs to learn. We don't want to keep her overly safe because we don't want to bubble wrap her. And also we understand that this isn't just about long term, it's about short term. And we've basically said, sorry, it's not just about short term, it's about the long term success of our daughter. So we've set up this rule that essentially says, if it's not going to be a life-changing or life-threatening injury, she's going to have to suck it up. It's going to hurt. There may be some tears. There's probably going to be a bit of blood. There's going to be, hopefully not, but at some point there may be a broken bone or two. But if it's not going to be severely life-changing, if it's not going to be life-threatening, she has to learn to some degree. So the equivalent here was, hey, with your team, what's the boundary that you're going to set? Where are you going to step in and go, hey, this is the point where I'm overstepping, I'm taking control and going in. So we set that with him. We also thought about shifting from very public feedback with criticism to public praise. Only praise in public. Well, not only praise in public, but you get what I mean. Praise in public and criticize in private. There's a few stories that I'd like to share to illustrate. One of them was like this this party that I had in an old gym that I worked in, and there was another coach called Craig. And if like at that point, I was a pretty entitled coach. I wasn't great. I was a great weightlifting coach. I really understood movement, but I could not take responsibility of things other than just my sessions, and I'd just constantly look for shortcuts. There's this other guy, Craig, who's an absolutely brilliant coach, like genuinely really good guy, always took ownership, always took the slack. My boss at the time recognized that, and in this party that we're at with everyone there, he basically brought out this this big present. And there were a bunch of us coaches working for him at the time. But this big present is wrapped up, and in front of all our clients, all our team, went, Craig, this is for you, mate. You've constantly been taking shifts when you didn't have to. You have constantly been showing up as you wanted to. You've been doing all the cleaning rota. You've done everything that we wanted you to do. Here's a gift. And he didn't realize, although this guy didn't realize that he knew him this well. Craig didn't realize that he knew him this well. So he unwrapped this thing, and it was a present that was some decks, and Craig was massively into DJing. It was a really personal thing to give, but it was such an affectionate thing to give, and it just reinforced that reinforced that behavior. And this is the thing, we learn so much more quickly and effectively through positive reinforcement than negative or punishment. Like if you look at Pavlovian conditioning, the animal learns quickest when you reinforce positively. Okay, so what we got him to do is basically say, hey, when you get quick feedback, when you get positive behavior, when you get what you want, give it back immediately, pass it on, like give that praise there, because that is what builds that effectiveness. So it's very similar to in dog training. As a dog gets closer to the behavior that you want to see, you reinforce it, and you get a bit closer and a bit closer and a bit closer and a bit closer, and every single time you reinforce immediately, positively, effectively, and you go like, yes, this is your reward. You give that dog a treat every time it gets closer. And we share a lot of the same nervous system, we share a lot of the same reward system with dopamine and serotonin. Basically reward your team as soon as you do it, and as you see the behavior you want to see, and do it in public if possible. So the principle is basically every leader inherits this reinforcement style from your parents, from the coaches, from older siblings, the teams you grow up in, like wherever it is. Most people just never question it and carry it on, and just becomes their leadership style. That style, though, is shaping your team's performance, is shaping their behavior, whether you're aware of it or not. The question isn't, are you reinforcing behavior? Because you're always reinforcing behavior. The question is, which behaviors, which team structure, which performance level are you reinforcing? These standards aren't going to collapse because people stop caring. They collapse because the system around them stops reinforcing the behavior that makes them successful. So rebuild the system, reward what you want to see, make it personal, make it public, do this really well and stop doing the job they didn't do, because every single time you do their job, you're running the training session for the wrong outcome. You're getting the dog to sit when it should be laying down. You're getting the dog to take a shit in the hallway when you want it to go outside. You're always training your team. The only question is what you're training them to do. So this week, identify one person in your team who nailed it. What did they do, however small it was, and then praise them in public, reward them in public, in the next team meeting, in a group message, something in front of everyone else. Give them a gift. Give them something that means a lot to them personally. It works especially well if it's personal to them. And then stop doing one thing that you've been doing, which is doing their job for them. You cannot build a high performance team whilst you're doing their jobs for them. Think about in the military. You don't get the CEO running around doing the medic's job and doing the radio. You get them doing their job. You get them organizing. You hold people to their standard. Pick one thing to hand back and don't pick it up.